My name is Mitchell Papajuk. I'm the CEO of CxT Roasting Company, and we're located in Peoria, Illinois. CxT started back in 2015 when Tristan, my brother, and I decided to start roasting coffee in the garage as a hobby. We bought a little manual coffee roaster from Taiwan called the Huki, and we started roasting in the garage and thought, hey, maybe we can do something and sell this online and whatnot. Turns out like you can't really do that with the health department rules around here. So we actually ended up going to Costa Rica, visiting some coffee farms with our mom as well, and just seeing if coffee was something we wanted to do, really like go and dive into it. Because we were doing it as a hobby, and it's like, how do we know if we want to take that jump? So after we came back from Costa Rica, we were like, this is it, this is what we want to do. And we ended up signing a little lease for a little 800 square foot shop location in our downtown Main Street. And so once we did that, we got going with our little shop roaster here, and we had our one location. And now we've coming up into 2024. We have 3 cafe locations, this production roasting facility, and a cocktail bar, and almost 20 employees. We've come a little bit of ways during especially some tough years. I forgot about this story, but we actually started off in our cafe when we first opened. We didn't have an espresso machine, so we were only doing pour over coffee. So Tristan was in the back roasting. We hadn't gotten our shop roaster yet, so he was roasting on our small 1 pound roaster, taking pre-orders on bags for people because we didn't have enough coffee. And we were just only doing pour overs at the time. That lasted about for a month, so and then we eventually bought an espresso machine. So if you're thinking about starting a coffee shop, like make sure you put out for an espresso machine to start with. Well, you know, they're expensive, and at the time, you know, single origin coffees were just super hot, and people were really loving the pour overs and Chemex idea. Most of our customers had never seen one before, so it was just, that was where we wanted to differentiate at the time. But you know, everyone needs their latte once in a while, so I think the best word is probably just bewilderment. Some people thought it was cool, some people thought it was like unnecessary or just didn't understand what was going on. You know, it does seem a little bit extra at first when you're kind of walking in and you're not used to like what a pour over is, to seeing Tristan like standing there pouring over with a gooseneck kettle. We had like 10 different brewing methods you could choose from as well, whether it was like a Chemex or like AeroPress or B60 or French press, things like that. So we really try to highlight the brewing methods and the diversity in that regard, and then as well as the single origin coffees. I think a lot of people took it as a learning opportunity. We were new, so we weren't flooded with customers coming in all the time. It gave us a chance to like really build a loyal customer base because they knew, hey, we're getting quality coffee, we get an experience with it, and the customer service was just there. We started with Costa Rica as like our first coffee that we roasted as a company. Before that, I'm not even sure what our actual first one that we did as a hobby was, but we started with Costa Rica as our first coffee for the company, just based on that inspiration. It was a turning point for us. You know, it's hard to know when a hobby is really something that you want to pursue on a professional level. So that was where we went, and that made the difference for us. Well, from our standpoint, we've learned a lot more about our community. Tristan and I are both from a small town outside of Peoria where we're located, and even though we grew up here most of our lives, we didn't know much about Peoria. And having a couple coffee shops here, we've gotten to meet so many different people and also learn about so many different organizations. We partner with several organizations throughout the year to like help with their fundraising and promotional activities, one including like the Center for Prevention of Abuse. We also work with other organizations. We're able to like give back to the community in a lot of different ways, whether it's having meeting spaces for people or having promotional events going on where we have customized sleeves and things like that, creating a meeting space for everyone. One of the great things about coffee is just, you know, when you break it down to its elemental level, you're just pouring hot water over some crushed beans, but it can be so much more than that, and it can take you on a lot of wild adventures. If anyone's looking forward to getting into the coffee industry, I definitely recommend it. It's just so much fun. You get to meet so many amazing people. One of the great things is just that it seems like the equalizer place for people to meet. And anyone who walks up to get a coffee, you don't know if they're got millions of dollars in the banks or just enough to buy a cup of coffee. Everyone's kind of going to the same place for that product, experience your community, and make a lot of friends along the way. It always changes, but I think our favorite one is just the coffees where we have a good relationship with the farmer. My favorites that we roast is the Dominican Republic. We get it from the Ramirez estate. When Eddie Ramirez, we got a chance to meet over in the Dominican Republic. We went to his farms and his facilities. He's just a great guy and got to really meet all of his workers and his production crews. And it's a lot of fun because we get the same coffee from him, but it's processed different ways. So we get a washed natural, honey, an aged natural. So they're doing a lot of experimentation at the farm, and he's really taking our feedback, and we really get a chance to have an impact on the farm as well, even as a small company. That's one of my favorite coffees, is just anyone that we have an actual input on and relationship with the farmer. I think it's important to have that relationship with the farmers because then you know kind of where your coffee's coming from. A lot of people, when they drink their coffee in the morning, it's sort of a taken for granted product. You don't realize how many hands go into it, how many hours, how many labors, how much transportation, how much time time goes into making that cup of coffee, because it's just, at this point for us, we're lucky that's kind of a daily. Being able to tell that story a little bit and at least have our customers understand like what goes into it and what makes our coffee, you know, different and better than other coffees as well. And being able to converse with the farmer, we get to understand the product even better, because we can always just send them a WhatsApp of, hey, what's going on with this, or what's coming up this year, and we can prepare for those types of things. It's also just great to like network with other farmers. We've worked with Eddie for a while, but then we've been able to get introduced to other farmers as well in different parts of the world. It kind of creates that little community for specialty coffee that's always sought after for small companies. Fortunately, We've only been on 2 origin trips so far, Costa Rica and Dominican Republic. But one of the funny stories from the Costa Rican trip, because we weren't used to driving around in the mountains too much. So it was my brother and Kelly, our mother, and I, and we were driving around and we're going up these mountains trying to find this coffee farm, and we just keep going up and up and up this mountain. And we don't have those in this flat Illinois here. So we keep going up and we finally reach the top, and it's an amazing view, and we're just so excited, and the GPS is telling us to go down the other side. So we start going down the other side, and there's no real road. It's just like a dirt path. And we're starting to go, and we get down into that grade, and it's just like, I don't think we're gonna make it. And my mom's just looking at me like, I think more scared than I've ever seen her in her life. She's like, we gotta go back. Like, we're not gonna make it. So that was just one of those like fun experiences where in the moment it was just like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, we're trying to find these coffee farms, but we're like off-roading and probably about to tumble down this mountain. So we actually got to talking with Paul at Coffee Fest in Chicago, I think the first year that we had opened. This is back in 2017, Chicago. We got talking to Paul. Paul's just a very charismatic and fun guy. And we got to talking with him. And I remember his words exactly, because we were like, oh, what are your minimum orders and stuff? And they said, well, right now it's about 10,000. It's gonna be about next level for you guys, because we just started, but you're gonna get there. And I feel like that was really inspiring to us. You know, this guy believes in us, maybe it's not the right time. A little bit later that year, we ended up going to the roaster retreat for the Coffee Roasters Guild, and we met Paul again, and we're like, Paul, I think we're ready. So that's when we started taking on that role, and he helped us with the design process. And everyone on the Savor team has just been amazing in helping us work through something that's surprisingly complicated for, you know, just being some packaging. So you think, okay, well, what materials, what types of dimensions, like what feel on there, what substrate, do you want a valve, or is it gonna be all these different aspects to design that you hadn't really considered as a small business before. The Savor team is just so helpful in getting us started on that. When we first started designing our bag, we didn't really know what we were doing. So it was really helpful to have the Savor brand, Savor crew to help us understand like what things to consider. So we definitely got some inspiration bags from the Savor team, and we kind of looked through what we were looking for. One thing we particularly wanted was just this, the zipper on the back. We wanted the flat bottom. We liked the gussets being kind of that way. We went for like a little bit wider bag because we wanted to be able to showcase the data about the coffee. We wanted them to sort of stack nicely on the shelves as well. And we went with more of a muted design. We didn't do too many complications or graphics or anything like that, because as our first bag, we wanted it to be very flexible with minimum quantities. You know, when you're first starting out, you want the bag to be very versatile. We didn't want to like pinhole ourselves into only a certain products can go in this bag. So we left it somewhat blank, but we felt like giving it a nice like matte appearance was a lot different than a lot of bags out there at the time when we first did this. We tried to throw a few like little fun elements on here, some odes to some of our family members that were very influential in our development. We have our initials from our grandfather on here who since passed, and then there's just a funny little quote that he had always used to say while we were growing up, which says, no matter how high the eagle flies, you can always break a window with a hammer. Just putting a little bit of personality, even though the bag itself is somewhat simple. We went with the soft touch varnish because we wanted the bag to feel great when you hold on to it or when you grab it off the shelf. Yeah, and then we just basically went with our standard logo. This logo we actually created in Keynote because we don't have a design background, and when you're starting out, it's pretty expensive to start going for some of that stuff. So this is actually a logo that I created just in Keynote, putting some fonts together and whatnot. We've since graduated a little bit, and now we've worked with a designer, so we're going to be actually launching our new rebrand on our next run of bag. So we're going to be changing up the design of our bag, maybe the dimensions a little bit as well as building out a 5-pound bag in addition to our 12-ounce offering. Well, one thing that's exciting is we've just launched a complimentary product, hand-poured chocolate bars. So we've created a new company called Monocle Chocolate. We just launched this year. We're hand-pouring chocolate bars, and they'll feature our coffee in there as well as some more standard flavors and bars that include dried fruits like strawberries and raspberries, and then some jasmine flavored chocolate bars as well. We're starting out just tempering and pouring the chocolate, kind of feeling out the market for it, because high-end chocolate is not necessarily something that's very popular in our area currently. We're seeing it in other big metropolitan areas. We're kind of getting a feel for the market by just doing the tempering and stuff, although we're buying some high quality cacao. But eventually we'd like to get into roasting cacao and conching it itself.